Hey crew, it's Pitt, and I am back with some more ancient lore. Today we are diving back into the Corpus Hermeticum. We are going to be doing three more chapters. That's the best way to put it, I guess. But we will be doing though unmanifest God is most manifest. Is God in God alone is good and elsewhere nowhere, and the greatest ill among men is the ignorance of God. We will be reading these aloud for the record and talking about them as we go along as the need arises. Let's dig in. Though unmanifest, God is most manifest. Of Hermes to his son Tat. I will recount for thee this sermon, Logos, too, O Tat, that thou mayst cease to be without the mysteries of God beyond all name. And mark thou well how that which to the many seems unmanifest will grow most manifest for thee. Now, were it manifest, it would not be, for all that is made manifest is subject to becoming, for it hath been made manifest. But the unmanifest forever is, for it doth not desire to be made manifest. It ever is, and maketh manifest all other things. Being himself unmanifest, as ever being and ever making manifest, himself is not made manifest. God is not made himself by thinking manifest. He thinketh all things manifest. Now, thinking manifest deals with things made alone, for thinking manifest is nothing else than making. He then, alone, who is not made, 'tis clear is both beyond all power of thinking manifest, and is unmanifest. And as he thinketh all things manifest, he manifests through all things, and in all, and most of all in whatsoever things he wills to manifest. Do thou then, Tat, my son, pray first unto our Lord and Father, the one and only one, from whom the one doth come, to show his mercy unto thee, in order that thou mayest have the power to catch a thought of this so mighty God, one single beam of him to shine into thy thinking, for thought alone sees the unmanifest, in that it is itself unmanifest. If then thou hast the power, he will, Tat, manifest to thy mind's eyes. The Lord begrudgeth not himself to anything, but manifest himself through the whole world. Thou hast the power of taking thought, of seeing it and grasping it in thy own hands, and gazing face to face upon God's image. But if what is within thee even is unmanifest to thee, how then shall he himself who is within thyself be manifest for thee by means of outer eyes? All right, so there was a whole lot of the word manifest in here, but I'm going to break it down for you. You know what the gist of this is? God is. We've covered this already, but God is all things. He is me. He is you. He is the space between me and you, and he is the space between me and you. He is this lighter, and he is this knife. He is this microphone in front of me. He is the airwaves that we talk through. He is the sound that comes out of my voice. He is all. He is not manifest inside of himself, other than that we are all manifestly here because of his will. That is what that was saying. It also says here that you can seek his face, that you can have him reveal himself to you through meditative practices. And that is true. You can indeed knock and the door will open. Seek and ye shall receive. Ask and it shall be given. If you are diligently doing the things that you are called to do, prayer, fasting, and meditation, you will receive the gifts of this. But if thou wouldst see him, bethink thee of the sun, bethink thee of the moon's course, bethink thee of the order of the stars. Who is the one who watcheth over that order? For every order hath its boundaries marked out by place and number. The sun's the greatest god of gods in heaven, to whom all the heavenly gods give place as unto king and master. And he, this so great one, he greater than the earth and sea, endures to have above him circling smaller stars than him, out of respect to whom, or out of fear to whom, my son, doth he do this. Nor like nor equal is the course each of these stars describes in heaven. Who, then, is he who marketh out the manner of their course and its extent? The bear up there that turneth round itself and carries the whole cosmos with it. Who is the owner of this instrument? Who, he who hath set round the sea its bounds? Who, he who hath set on its seat the earth? For Tat, there is a number. There is someone who is maker and the Lord of all these things. It could not be that number, place, and measure could be kept without someone to make them. No order whatsoever could be made without that which lacketh place and lacketh measure. Nay, even this is not without a Lord, my son. For if the orderless act lacks something, in that it is not the Lord of order's path, it is also beneath a Lord, the one who hath not yet ordained it in order. Would it were possible for thee to get wings, and soar into the air, and poised midway between the earth and heaven, behold the earth's solidity, the sea's fluidity, the flowing of its streams, the spaciousness of air, fire's swiftness, and the coursing of the stars, the swiftness of heaven's circuit round them all. Most blessed sight were it, my son, to see all these beneath one sway, the motionless in motion, and the unmanifest made manifest, whereby is made this order of the cosmos, and the cosmos which we see of order. If thou wouldst see him too through things that suffer death, both on the earth and in the deep, think of a man's being fashioned in the womb, my son, and strictly scrutinize the art of him who fashions him, and learn who fashioned this fair and godly image of the man. Who then is he who traceth out the circles of the eyes, and he who boreth out the nostrils and the ears, and he who opened the portal of the mouth, he who doth stretch out and tie the nerves, he who channels out the veins, and he who hardeneth the bones, who covereth the flesh without skin, who he who separates the fingers and the joints, who he who widens out a treading for the feet, who he who diggeth out the ducts, and who he who spreadeth out the spleen, who he who shapeth heart like a pyramid, and who he setteth the ribs together, who he who wideneth the liver out, and who he who maketh lungs like to a sponge, who he who maketh belly stretch so much, who he who maketh prominent the parts most honorable, so that they may be seen, while hiding out of sight those of least honor. This was an interesting one, not necessarily worthy of some kind of speech or anything, but I've never considered that the heart looked like a pyramid. I would have to be convinced of that, because it's not equal in a way, but it does kind of resemble, I guess, if you're really looking for it. It kind of makes you wonder, because this is old, right? This manuscript is fairly old. It is hearkening back to ancient wisdom, possibly before the last cataclysm, the flood, and the pyramid being like the heart. We touched on it, but there is a part of the meditative process where you have to manipulate the energy that moves through you. You have to take it and move it in specific directions in order to get it to do what you want. And I don't get into a whole lot of detail on that, because a lot of that is exploration that you have to find on your own. Some of it I can give you. Some of it I can't. It has to be done by experience alone. This is one of those things that is mostly by experience alone. You have to learn the proper ways to channel things. But once you get up past the heart, if you look at a cross section of the pyramid and you look at the direction that it's laid out in, that can give you some instruction into how to move things past the heart in your own mind. That's as close to revealed as I can get. Behold how many arts employed on one material, how many labors on one single sketch, and all exceedingly fair, and all in perfect measure, yet all diversified. Who made them all? What mother or what sire, save God alone, unmanifest, who hath made all things by his will? And no one saith a statue or a picture comes to be without a sculptor, or without a painter. Doth, then, such workmanship as this exist without a worker? What depth of blindness, what deep impiety, what depth of ignorance! See thou never, son Tat, deprivest works of worker. Nay, rather he is greater than all names. So great is he, the father of them all, For verily he is the only one, and this his work to be a Father. There is a Trinity, but it is not three separate entities. It is not Father, Son, and Holy Ghost. It is body, mind, and soul. Right? Body, mind, and spirit is a better way to put it than soul. But body, mind, and spirit. Right? The the meat suit, the thing that makes the decisions, and the part that makes it happen. He is the God beyond all name. He is the unmanifest. He, the most manifest. He whom the mind alone can contemplate. He, visible unto the eyes as well. He is the one of nobody, the one of many bodies, nay, rather he of everybody. Naught is there which he is not, for all are he, and he is all. And for this cause hath he all names, in that they are one Father's. And for this cause he hath himself no name, in that he's Father of them all. Who then may sing thee praise of thee, or praise to thee? Whither again am I to turn my eyes to sing thy praise? Above, below, within, without? There is no way, no place is there about thee, nor any other thing of things that are. All are in thee, and all are from thee. O thou who givest all and takest not, for thou hast all, and naught is there thou hast not. And when, O Father, shall I hymn thee? For none can seize thy hour or time. For what again shall I sing hymn? For things that thou hast made, or things thou hast not? For things thou hast made manifest, or things thou hast concealed? How, further, shall I hymn thee, as being of myself, as having something of mine own, as being other? For thou art whatever I may be, thou art whatever I may do, thou art whatever I may speak. For thou art all, and there is nothing else. Thou which art not. Thou art all that which doth exist, and thou art what doth not exist. Mind, when thou thinkest, and Father, when thou makest, and God, when thou dost energize, and good, and maker of all things. And that's going to end. What was the name of this one again? Though unmanifest, God is most manifest. And what we get out of this is that God is all things, right? This is a hammer. This is a nail that I hammer all the time, is the best way to put that. But there was never a need for intercession between you and God. I went through an extensive Bible study so that we could point that out. It is told to you many times in the Old Testament that you did not need to make a sacrifice to be forgiven from your sins, and therefore nobody had to step in to be the sacrifice for you to be forgiven for sins. The only thing that was ever required for you to be forgiven from your sins was for you to give up your sins, to sacrifice those to God, and to do His will in your life. He doesn't set sins so that you are held back from anything. He doesn't say, don't drink to excess so that you will never drink. He does that so you won't drink to excess, so that you won't turn the alcohol into the God instead of Him. If you are calling on a specific name of God, you're getting it wrong. If you are looking to a specific person, you're getting it wrong. That is not to say that you can't, because we need something to call Him. Calling Him God is still too small. Calling Him Yahweh, you can do that. You can call Him whatever name you feel most comfortable with. People have different names for God. God is. God is love, truth. He is all of the good things, but He's all of the bad things too, because He is the experience that we are living. Everything here is because of Him. Every single experience that you go through is derived from Him to make you better. You may not choose to be better from the experience, and that's where immortality comes in. Your goal is to choose to become better from every experience. That is the purpose of being here on this planet, is to have the experience for the immortal who cannot have the experience for himself. He has the experience through us. This gets into metaphysicals and theologies, and I get all of that, but the gist of it is, boiled down right here, He is all the things. Without prejudice, without favor, without any of that. There are no chosen people, right? There can be a chosen person, someone who is following the will, doing the things called to do, the things that are right. That person can be chosen by God, but his whole bloodline is not going to be. There will not ever be a chosen bloodline. There has not ever been one, and there will not ever be one. It is outside the scope of God to play favorites in that manner. He doesn't care what color your skin is. He created all the skin. The things that we use to divide ourselves, He made. And our goal, our mission, and what we are supposed to do here is to overcome those things. If you believe that someone is inferior to you because of the tone of their skin, their amount of melanin that they are born with, that is remarkably silly. And you should seriously reconsider your life decisions if you're going to be making decisions based upon the color of someone's skin. Drop my glasses. And so now we're going to jump into the next one. This is going to be in God alone is good, and elsewhere, nowhere. O good Asclepius, is in none else save God alone. Good, O Asclepius, is in none else save God alone. Nay, rather, good is God himself eternally. If it be so, good must be essence, and from every kind of motion, and becoming free, though naught is free from it, possessed of stable energy around itself, never too little, never too much, and ever full supply. Though one, yet is it source for all. One, yet source of all. For what supplieth all is good. When I, moreover, say altogether, it is forever good. This belongs to no one else save God alone. For he stands not in need of anything, so that desiring it he should be bad, nor can a single thing of things that are be lost on to him, on losing which he should be pained, for pain is part of bad. Nor is there aught superior to him that he should be subdued by it, nor any peer to him to do him wrong, or he should fall in love on its account, nor aught that gives him no ear to him, whereat he should grow angry, nor wiser aught for him to envy. So this is a little bit wrong. God is all the good things, absolutely, but he is all the bad things too. People like to imagine a dichotomy there, that there is good and bad, and they are opposing each other, but that is not the case. God created all things. God is indeed all things. Every experience comes from God. That includes the bad ones. Every experience can be good. There is no lesson in every experience being good. There is no growth. There is no anything if there is not destruction. There can be nothing new if something old does not go away. You cannot survive except you destroy something and consume it. Right? Your life is dependent upon the bad thing of eating. Everything is part of God. The good and the bad, not excluding any of it. There is no opposing force. There is the lesson that you are to integrate and to balance within your life. If you have a problem with anger, then you need to work on love. If you have a problem with pride, you need to work on selflessness. But some people have too much selflessness and they need to work a little on pride. You need to incorporate all 7 of the sins and the virtues need to be balanced in your life. And there is a counterpoint for every single sin. There is a counterpointing virtue. You need to balance those. Chastity is a great thing. Lust is a great thing. In moderation. You're supposed to lust after your spouse, but you're not supposed to lust after everybody you see. That is an overextendence of lust. But if you are completely chaste and never submit to the wills of the flesh, then you are overtaking chastity and you are doing equally evil by being virtuous. That is a hard lesson to learn. That is a hard lesson to hear, but it is nothing on this earth more true than that. Now, as all of these are non-existent in his being, what is there left but good alone? For just as naught of bad is to be found in such transcendent being, so too in no one of the rest will good be found. For in them all are all the other things, both in the little and the great, both in each severally, and in this living one that's greater than them all, and mightiest of them. For things subject to birth abound in passions, birth in itself being passible. But where there's passion, nowhere is there good, and where there is good, nowhere is a single passion. For where is day, nowhere is night, and where is night, nowhere day is nowhere. Wherefore in Genesis the good can never be, but only in the ingenerate. But seeing that the sharing in all things hath been bestowed on matter, so doth it share in good. In this way is the cosmos good, that in so far as it doth make all things, as far as making goes is good. But in all other things it is not good, for it is both passible and subject unto motion, and maker of things passible. And again, this is a this is an attempt, right? It is even probably an honest attempt, but you either have to believe that there is a God and He is all powerful and all consuming and all, or you can believe that there is someone opposed to that. Now, I'm not saying that there are not entities. There are. I'm not saying that they don't work against the good. They do. But there are entities that work for the good too. There are a balance. The temptations are for you to overcome. They come from God. They don't come from the devil. They don't come from anything other than source. Every temptation that you face, you have the power to overcome. There is good, there is bad, and it is all of God. It is not just good, right? And bad is a relative term, right? The things that we see as absolutely devastating can actually be the fertilizer in which we grow from. The loss of a loved one can spur us into nurturing someone else, right? That's a good example of the bad is a relative thing. Evil is different. Now, going out and murdering people, that is bad. That is also from God. That is, the murderer is supposed to not do that. His lesson was to not murder. That is what he is supposed to be doing. But he doesn't. Instead, he chooses to do the wrong. But that is part of the temptation. The free will, the ability to choose the wrong thing is just as much yours as the ability to choose the good thing. It's just detrimental to you. It doesn't help you spiritually evolve. It doesn't help you find happiness. You can get all the money you want from doing the wrong thing, and you will not be happy. You can have zero money and do the right thing and be ecstatic with your life. These are real. And because they are real, the experience is subjective. What you take from your lesson is where you go. Right? That is what you do. That is the point of being here. And if you learn a very hard lesson and you take bitterness from it, you are not seeking the face of God. Right? You are seeking the other, but there really is no other. You're just choosing to repeat the pattern. That's what's going to happen. It's not like the problem's not going to go away because you do the wrong thing. You're just going to get the temptation to do the wrong thing in greater capacity because that's how it works, right? You have to be tempted. And when you are tempted, you can choose. Resist the temptation or succumb. Well, if you choose to succumb, then you're going to be tempted again, and it's going to be harder to resist. If you resist, you're going to be tempted again, but it's easier to resist. These are fundamental laws. These are things that will happen. You should check out the 8 laws of creation. Whereas in man, by greater or by less of bad is good determined. For what is not too bad down here is good, and good down here is the least part of bad. It cannot, therefore, be that good down here should be quite clean of bad, for down here good is fouled with bad, and being fouled it stays no longer good, and staying not it changes into bad. In God alone is therefore good, and good is God himself. So then, Asclepius, the name alone of good is found in men, the thing itself nowhere in them, for this can never be. For no material body doth contain it, a thing bound on all sides by bad, by labors, pains, desires, and passions, by error and foolish thoughts. And greatest still of all, Asclepius, is that each of these things that have been said above is thought down here to be the greatest good. And what is still an even greater ill is belly lust, the error that doth lead the band of all the other ills, the thing that makes us turn down here from good. And again, I don't agree. There is good in man. Man is part of God, and if man is part of God, then man has the capacity for good. Man has the capacity for evil, and it is much easier to take that load. But you can indeed make the correct choices. You can indeed be a virtuous man. You can. It is exceedingly difficult, but it's possible. It's not impossible to not ever commit violence. It's highly unlikely. It's not impossible to do the things, right? But it's highly unlikely. God is in you. God is in me. We are none of us God, but we are all each a small piece of God. And therefore, his intrinsic goodness is in us. His intrinsic evil is in us as well. You may not like that, but it doesn't change that. And I, for my own part, give thanks to God that he hath cast it in my mind about the gnosis of the good, that it can never be, it should be in the world. That it can never be, it should be in the world. For that the world is fullness of the bad, but God of good and good of God. The excellencies of the beautiful are round the very essence of the good. Nay, they do seem too pure, too unalloyed. Perchance 'tis that they are themselves its essences. For one may dare to say, Asclepius, if essence soothe, he have God's essence is the beautiful. The beautiful is further also good. There is no good that can be got from objects in the world, for all the things that fall beneath the eye are image things and pictures, as it were, while those that do not meet the eye are realities, especially the essence of the beautiful and good. And just as the eye cannot see God, so can it not behold the beautiful and good, for that they are integral parts of the God, wedded to him alone, inseparate familiars, most beloved, with whom God is himself in love, or they with God. If thou canst God conceive, thou shalt conceive the beautiful and good, transcending light, made lighter than the light by God. That beauty is beyond compare. Imitate that good. I think that's supposed to say imitate, but there's extra letters, so imitate that good, even as God is himself. As then thou dost conceive of God, conceive the beautiful and good, for they cannot be joined with aught of other things that live, since they can never be divorced from God. Seekest thou for God? Thou seekest for the beautiful. One is the path that leadeth unto it, devotion joined with gnosis. And thus it is that they who do not know and do not tread devotion's path do dare to call a man beautiful and good, though he have never even in his vision seen a whit that's good, but is enwrapped with every kind of bad, and thinks the bad is good, and thus doth make unceasing use of it, and even feareth that it should be taken from him, so straining every nerve, not only to preserve, but even to increase it. Such are the things that men call good and beautiful, Asclepius, things which we cannot flee or hate. For hardest thing of all is that we've needed of them and cannot live without them. And so ends is God alone. In God alone is good, and elsewhere nowheres. And I don't agree with most of this one. I've stated why, right? We don't need to really reiterate it, but God is all. It really is that simple. And if God is all, then that is the good and the bad. It cannot exclude, right? There is a choice. You are to choose the good, the light, the better. You are to choose to better yourself, but you have the free will to choose not to. You do have the choice to do the wrong thing. You can make that choice. It is not a good thing to do. It is not recommended by me for sure in any capacity. I fully try my best. I can't say that I do, but I do try my best to live by the 8 laws of creation because they are very important. Because all of the virtues and vices belong to God, you have to make the choice. to balance those in your life. Balance is God. It really is that simple. It is the balance between life and death. It is the balance between good and evil. It is the balance between charity and greed. Right? All of these things, it's the balance thereof that you are to strive for. It is not the exclusion of any. And next, we are going to do the greatest ignorance. The greatest ill among men is the ignorance of God. And I absolutely agree with that statement alone. Whither stumble ye sots, who have sopped up the wine of ignorance unmixed, and cannot so far carry, and can so far not carry it that ye already even spew it forth? Stay ye, be sober, gaze upwards with the true eyes of the heart, and if ye cannot all, yet ye at least who can. For that the ill of ignorance doth pour all over the earth, and overwhelm the soul that's battened down within the body, preventing it from fetching port within salvation's harbors. Be then not carried off by the fierce flood, but using the shore current, ye who can make for salvation's port, and harboring there seek ye for one to take you by the hand and lead you unto Gnosis's gates, where shines clear light and every darkness clean, where not a single soul is drunk, but sober, all they gaze with their heart's eyes on him who willeth to be seen. No ear can hear him, nor can eye see him, nor tongue speak of him, but only mind and heart. But first thou must tear off from thee the cloak which thou dost wear, the web of ignorance, the ground of bad corruption's chain, the carapace of darkness, the living death, sensation's corpse, the tomb thou carriest with thee, the robber in thy house, who through these things he loveth hateth thee, and through the things he hateth beareth thee malice. Such is the hateful cloak thou wearest, that throttles thee and holds thee down to it, in order that thou mayest not gaze above, and having seen the beauty of truth and good that dwells therein, detest the bad of it, having found out the plot that it hath schemed against thee, by making void of sense and seeming things which men think senses. For it hath with mass of matter blocked them up and crammed them full of loathsome lust, so that thou mayest not hear about the things that thou shouldst hear, nor see the things that thou shouldst see. And so ends that one. That was a little bit shorter, right? It was the greatest ill among men is ignorance of God, and that is absolutely true. The greatest ill of men is not only the ignorance of God, but the actual trying to disassociate yourself from it. You're trying to separate yourself from God, from His express will in your life. You know what you're supposed to be doing. You know what course your life is supposed to be on. You know how you're supposed to interact with people. You just choose to do the wrong thing most of the time, and that is almost exclusively because people do not understand that I am me and you are you, but we together are also one. That is a hard concept for people. There are several different theories to explain it, but one is the shared electron. I don't know if you're familiar with the theory, but there is a theory. I don't necessarily hold with it, but it is there that everything is one electron doing all the work. That there is indeed just one electron in all of existence, and that one electron has consisted of everything. That's a little bit ridiculous, but it's not that far off in the grand scope of things. Your individual experience is tailored to you, and my individual experience is tailored to me, but we have met before. I do believe that the soul is eternal, that it will go somewhere after we're done here. Where is up for debate? We haven't been there. Well, in fullness. Some of us have visited, but we don't know. I believe that the soul was somewhere before it was here as well. And we don't know that either. We won't know until we return, but I do believe that when we return, we will. It will all become plain and obvious, and we will understand that the things that we thought were there to hold us back were actually there to help us learn. And the people that we thought were there to hold us down was actually us trying to teach us a lesson. because I do believe that while we are having our individual experiences and we are each individually living on our own individual timelines, even, that it is a possibility that when I get done with this life, I'm going to have yours. And when you get done with your life, you're going to live this one. I hope not. That sucks for you. But it is a possibility. We won't know. There is a possibility that all life is the same soul having an experience at different times. That is a possibility. Understanding that God is all will open the door for you to understand that you are God and I am God, but neither one of us are God. Right? We are pieces, tiny, tiny little fractional pieces, but we're all fractional pieces of the same thing. And we're going to go ahead and do one more because that took a little bit less time than I thought it was going to. And so we're going to do that no one of existing things doth perish, but men in error speak of their changes as destructions and of death. This is of Hermes to Tat, so it's a conversation. Hermes. Concerning soul and body, son, we now must speak. In what way soul is deathless, and whence comes the activity in composing and dissolving body? For there is no death for aught of things that are, and the thought this word conveys is either void of fact, or simply by knocking off a syllable, what is called death doth stand for deathless. For death is of destruction, and nothing in the cosmos is destroyed. For if cosmos is second God a life that cannot die, it cannot be that any part of this immortal life should die. All things in cosmos are part of cosmos, and most of all is man, the rational animal. I didn't read this before, and we might not have just had the conversation we just did. That was what I was telling y'all. So, for truly, first of all, eternal and transcending birth is God, the universal's maker. Second is he, after his image, cosmos, brought into being by him, sustained and fed by him, made deathless, as by his own sire, living for I, as ever free from death. Now, that which ever liveth differs from the eternal, for he hath not been brought to being by another, and even if he had been brought to being, he hath not been brought into being by himself, but ever is brought into being. For the eternal, in that it is eternal, is the all. The Father is himself, eternal of himself. But cosmos hath become eternal and immortal by the Father. One of the 8 fundamental rules of creation is that matter cannot be created nor destroyed. That is what this is saying, right? All things, when you die, it is merely a transition. Your body returns to the elements and your soul returns to source. And of the matter stored beneath it, the Father made it of a universal body, and packing it together made it spherical, wrapping it around the life, a sphere, which is immortal in itself, and that doth make materiality eternal. But he, the Father, full filled with his ideas, did sow the lives into the sphere, and shut them in, as in a cave, willing to order forth the life of every kind of living. So he, with deathlessness, enclosed the universal body with that matter might not wish to separate itself from body's composition, and so dissolve into its own original unorder. For matter, son, when it was yet incorporate, was in unorder, and it doth still retain down here this nature of an order, enveloping the rest of the small lives that increase and decrease, which men call death. The sphere here is talking about the sphere that we live upon. If you're unaware, this is not a flat earth, it is a sphere, and it has been isolated from the outside by another sphere. We live on the sphere of earth. It has a sphere of water attached and then a sphere of air attached. So there are 3 spheres within the one sphere, and it is indeed a sphere. But the sphere is also you. You, living, have been placed inside the sphere of the divine chakra which surrounds you and is incorporating all the other 7 chakras that are within you. It is round earthly lives that this unorder doth exist, for that the bodies of the heavenly ones preserve one order allotted to them from the Father as their rule, and it is by the restoration of each one of them this order is preserved, indissolute. The restoration, then, of the bodies of the earth is thus their composition, whereas their dissolution restores them to those bodies which can never be dissolved, that is to say, which know no death. Privation, thus, of sense is brought about, not loss of bodies. Now the third life, man, after the image of the cosmos made, and having mind after the Father's will, beyond all earthly lives, not only doth have feeling with the second God, but also hath conception of the first. For of the one 'tis sensible as of a body, but while of the other it conceives as bodiless, and the good mind. Tat. Doth then this life not perish? Hermes. Hush, son, and understand what God, what cosmos is. What is a life that cannot die, and what a life subject to dissolution? Yea, understand, the cosmos is by God and in God, but man by cosmos and in cosmos. The source and limit of all the constitution of all things is God. And that I absolutely agree with. Once again, I am God, you are God. We are neither one of us God, but we are part of God. And God is me, He is you, He is the space between me and you, and the space between me and you. He is all things, the air we breathe and the sound we make. He is the very harmonic in which holds our reality together. He has given you the power to manifest His will in this world, to do the things that you were called to do. You can speak aloud the life that you want to live, and it will become yours. It may take some time. It takes a while to manifest. If you're doing it according to the rules of creation, third time, y'all make sure y'all check it out. Because those hold this in order. And if you are in alignment with those, you can create within the will of God. These are truths that you don't have to believe. Hopefully I brought a little bit of enlightenment and not too much confusion to a somewhat difficult topic. I know that I hold some unconventional beliefs and that I tend to step on toes when I talk about them, but while that is not intentional, it is not something I apologize for. I am here to tell you the truth whether you like it or not. I am here to expose to you the things which God has exposed to me, whether I like it or not. I am on this path by choice and willingly. I am fully committed in walking it in accordance with His will. There is but one God. There was never a sacrifice required for you to be forgiven for sin. All that was ever required for you to be forgiven for sin was to ask for forgiveness and to give up your sin. Sin is subjective. It is highly dependent upon what you believe it to be, what He tells you in here that it is. If you drink and He doesn't tell you it's a problem, then it's probably not a problem. But if you're drinking every day, He's telling you it's a problem. If you're drinking too much, He's already telling you it's a problem. You're just ignoring it. You're choosing to stay in the bondage, and I can't help you with that. But if you want to be free from bondage, if you want to change your life, it is ridiculously simple. If you go and you say, Dear Heavenly Father, I come to you as a sinner, and I ask you to forgive my sins. I freely accept the grace that you freely extend to me, and I ask you to change my life. Then it will happen. He will begin showing you today the things that you need to change in your life, and not all of them will fall off real quick. The trials will get harder. It will be a lot more difficult for a while to do the things that are right. The test will come when you decide to change your life, but it is definitely worth it to do it. To the crew, thanks for hanging out. I appreciate every single minute that you were here with me, and I am praying for you every single day. Until next time, I love you. God loves you. You are perfect, whole, and complete just the way that you are. And this has been Pit Steak. Peace.